Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder, and this is our third and final episode in our mini-series about what you want. We began with the question, why do you want what you want? The second episode was dealing with, if I know what I want, how do I get it? And then finally, today, we're going to tackle one of life's greatest questions, I don't know what I want. What do I do now?
Yeah, it's not essential that you listen to these three programs in that order. I think it's a good idea. But if you've just happened upon this program, don't stop now. All of this comes quite simply out of a conversation Steve and I had years ago about the tendency, we thought, to really ask the wrong question in defining a problem. Like you have a feeling that you're stuck, and you need a solution or you need a goal to get unstuck, some kind of result. And what we realized was either directly or indirectly, we'd been taught to ask ourselves, well, I wonder what I should do. Or of another, well, what do you think I should do? Or, well, what do you want me to do about it? I don't know what to do. And if you don't know what you want, then, well, how could you know what to do about it? And so we decided that wouldn't it be a good idea to define problems based not on what do you think I should do about it, or what do I think I should do, but do I know what I want? And that breaks down into two basic kinds of problems.
Yeah, I do know what I want, but I don't know how to get it, and I don't know what I want. As we said last week, if you do know what you want, but you don't know how to get it, you use the alpha state to imagine what you want as if you've already got it over and over again with great passion. You program your mind to get it. But if you don't know what you want, you can't tell yourself to get what you don't know. So instead of being able to tell yourself when you don't know what you want, what you must do is ask yourself. And this is a really powerful process of sitting receptive and listening for yourself to answer the question, what do I want? Now, do understand that the question, what do I want, in and of itself is a rather overwhelming question. I mean, there's a million things, there's a million areas I want things in. We must be much more specific than to just say, what do I want, unless we're doing a process of creativity to see what pops up. But what we're suggesting here is if you really don't know what you want, break it down into like what area of life are we talking about? What do you want in the area of your relationships? What do you want in the area of your career? What do you want in terms of your finances and your health and your family? I mean, be more specific. In what area are we looking to answer the question, I don't know what I want?
We should also talk about the difference between a solution to a problem that you find yourself in versus setting a goal, although both are collectively outcomes, aren't they? They are desired results. Well, what I've found in my life, I'd be interested to know if Steve agrees with this, is that as long as I'm setting goals, I'm growing. And in a proactive way, initiating problem solving. And so my growth is guaranteed, that benefits me, and I minimize the number of problems that I suddenly find thrust upon me. But if I want to get comfortable, if I want to pursue that feeling of getting it together, whatever that means, getting all my ducks in a row, that was a phrase I think you used last week, Steve. If I want to get to a place that is safe and comfortable and just curl up and hold on and spend some big piece of my life, maybe the rest of my life there, what I find is life creates problems, puts them upon me in the most amazing ways to force my growth. And so in that case, if I don't set a goal, I've got a problem, I've got to find a solution. So collectively, I think these outcomes are goals and solutions. Are you responding to something that's been done to you, a problem that you have to solve, or is this more of a proactive, I really would like to attain this goal or create this outcome in my life? They're very similar, two sides of the same coin.
Right. One of them is sort of thrust upon you and the other is sort of born out of you, but in either case, the process of dealing with it is the same. You don't know what you want. You don't know what you want in terms of how do I solve, what solution do I want to this problem, or you don't know what you want in terms of what outcome or goal or target do I want to aim for. So in either case, The most important thing to understand is that the answer to that question already exists in only one place, and that is inside of you. You cannot find the answer to that question anywhere else, nor could you find a question about what you want that you don't already have the answer to somewhere. Because what you want really literally translates to, what does your heart desire? It's not what do you think you should have. Want is an emotional experience, not a logical experience. If what you wanted was logical, then everybody would want exactly the same thing, because logic is logic. But the fact that you want different things than other people is because it's not a logical question. So what do I want? The answer exists inside my heart mind, or you could call it the subconscious mind, or you could call it the intuition, or you could call it the insight or awareness, or the higher self. We find the answer to that question in paradise.
Now, I'm sure there are many among our listeners who are familiar with Eastern philosophy and may be saying to yourself now, aha, this is the whole problem, and Steve and Michael are not going to address it. Well, we are, but only briefly. The problem I'm talking about is creating suffering and anxiety in your life with inappropriate levels of desire. In fact, Buddhism, much of Hinduism, Taoism, Eastern philosophy in general is saying, if you work more on being happy with what you have and less on fixating on what you do not have, you won't set yourself up for disappointment. There won't be nearly as much suffering. Well, that's a beautiful philosophy, and I dare say we can all benefit from applications of that philosophy. But the Western man and woman needs to stand up and say, very good, however, we do live in the world, and I have problems put upon me that I have to solve. This is not a culture that honors the aesthetic. You can't just go off in the woods with a begging bowl and a good book and hope that the society is going to support you. That's not going to happen in the West.
Not likely. And, the truth is you can choose any lifestyle you want to live, but you're still going to be facing problems. If you're proactive, that is, if you have goals that you're setting out to, you could anticipate your problems a lot better. They're the problems that people face along that path. If you just sort of let it happen, then you may not know what problems you're going to get. The truth is you're going to change. You're going to change. Change is inevitable. I heard a joke once, except from vending machines, but change is inevitable.
Change is good.
And the key here is by asking yourself, what do I want, and finding out the answer to that question, you can determine both the direction of the change toward what you want and the speed at which you change, depending on how much passion you put into the quest. So bottom line is you want to ask yourself, what do I want the most in this particular area of my life, and then listen for the answer. Now, when I say listen for the answer, that just sort of means let it come to you. It could be a picture that pops into your head, or it could be a voice, your voice, somebody else's voice. It could be an imaginary character in your mind that tells you. It could be just a feeling, a hunch, a sense, intuition. It could be, and this happens to me a whole bunch, that I don't get anything, but I start thinking about it, and then the next day I'm walking down the street and I notice something and go, oh, that's what I've been looking for. It's the law of attraction. It's like you start thinking about something that's on your mind, you notice it in places. But bottom line is, I'm going to ask my mind, I want to know the answer to this question. You start working on that one and get it up to me as soon as you can. Whether you get it through my eyes, my mind's eye, my mind's ear, my mind's intuition, however you get it to me, I want to know this. I want to know it with great fervor. I want to know it with great passion. It's really important to me that I know the answer to the question, what do I want the most? Please share that with me now. And then you listen for the answer.
I think we should hasten to add also that intuition always comes as a positive feeling. It has a sense of confirmation or realization. Like Steve said, a little burst of light. It might be a dawning, sun coming up real slowly. Might be the light bulb just pops on in your head gently, and you go, aha, there it is. That's it. That's what I've been looking for, as if it were here all along. And that little bit of light allowed you to see what was right in front of you. Or you could be thunderstruck. Blinding light, an epiphany, a lid-lifting experience that changes your life forevermore. Rudolf Steiner has a great line about the aha experience where he says, the landscape was fully illuminated and changed forevermore. And I thought, wow, that's an epiphany.
Yeah.
Now, while we're on this, we also need to distinguish intuition, the coming of light and the positive feeling, from instinct. We've had a president for 8 or 9 years, the last president, George W. Bush, who used to talk a lot about his gut, and he'd make decisions based on his gut. And a lot of people, whether they're business executives or whatever station they may have in life, who will report the same thing, some sort of gut feeling. But whether it's a true intuition or an instinct, which is lower in frequency and more of the animal nature, that's an important distinction. And it's as simple as asking, is this love-based or is it fear-based? Because if it's coming from fear, that kind of gut reaction is instinctual. It's at the animal level. It's very either or, only two choices, fight or flight, right or wrong, winners and losers. But if it's positive and the light that we've described, if it is enlightening and it comes with that, wow, that's it, and it's all warm and fuzzy and loving, that's a higher frequency. That's intuition. And I think it's important because both are referred to as gut feelings,
right.
And I'll take that positive, warm, fuzzy over the fear-based gut feeling any day.
That gut feeling you're talking about, that lower instinct feeling, that's so powerful because it knows exactly what it was. I want to stop hurting. I want to move away from pain. I don't want. So it knows what it doesn't want, and it confuses that with you thinking you know what you want. I want to move away from something. Doesn't mean I know what I want to move toward. So, as Michael just said, if the voice inside or the feeling inside is fearful, then it's not the one that knows what you want. It's the one that knows what you don't want, and it's confusing you.
And what you're trying to avoid.
Right, what you're trying to avoid. If the voice inside is feeling really safe and sweet and kind and loving, that's the one that does know what you want. So it's really pretty easy to distinguish. There's no way you're going to confuse a voice that's full of fear versus a voice that's full of love if you're paying attention. So when you ask yourself, what do I really, really want in terms of my relationship? And the answer comes back like, I wish you'd stop bugging me, or I wish you'd stop, and like it's the fear of it getting worse or lasting forever, and the ego saying, this hurts and I don't want any more of the hurt. That's not the higher self. The higher self would say something like, I want to feel closer and deeper and remember that moment that we had this experience and we felt that. I want more of that. I want more of that beautiful, awful, awesome, wonderful feeling, that beautiful, awesome, wonderful feeling that we know we can experience. So listen to the emotion of the voice. And remember, the question is an emotional question. It's not, what do I want is not a logical question. And then, as I said, everyone would want the same thing. What do I want is an emotional question. So you must listen to your emotions to answer the question, what do I want? And the question needs to be, what do I want the most in this particular area of my life? Or it's way too overwhelming a question.
Yeah, or what do I care about, if you want to approach it more generally. And how you cut up the areas of life is up to you. We don't have a tried or true formula. We could suggest a few. For example, one 3-part way of dividing your life is, what do I want for me personally in terms of self-actualization or growth, success, and fulfillment? Then there is relationships in family. What do I want in that area? And then third would be sort of moving out in a concentric circle, the larger career and avocation and the rest of my life. But you could also break it up into, things, material things. I think when we think, what do we want? It's like stuff or money or quotas or goals in that way, business goals.
And health is another area.
Health is another good area. What else? How about just the more esoteric, I want some meaning.
Yeah, fulfillment, spiritual growth. I want to feel connected. I want to move away from that feeling of lonesome and feel, like I'm part of something bigger. There's lots of areas of our lives we can look at. But the most important question is, be specific with, what do I want about what? What do I want is just too big a question, and the mind balks at trying to answer the question, what do I want? So What do I want in the area of my career? What do I want in the area of my managing my time? What do I want in the area of my attitude? Just pick a subject. There are 70 topics that we talked about in our programs here. Pick any one of those and say, what do I want in terms of the ability to experience gratitude? What do I want in dealing with difficult people? Every one of our shows is another question of what do I want in terms of a particular area of life. So you can be so specific. What do I want to feel the moment I wake up in the morning, without an alarm clock? You can be real specific. Ask yourself a basic question. What do I need to do to maintain optimum health? That's a real general kind of question. But generally, the more specific you can be, the less overwhelming the question seems.
Yeah, and remember, if you find yourself, because of, we're creatures of habit, if you find yourself caught up in that negative mental loop of what should I do? Oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. Well, what's going to happen if I don't know what to do? Oh, I know what's going to happen if I never do figure out what to do. I wonder, maybe I'll ask Bill, I'll ask Steve, what do you think I should do? Well, what do you want me to do about it? And it's maddening. All you got to do is remember to remember. Take a breath and relax and say, wait a minute. Steve and Michael talked about this. And they said, that's the wrong question. They said, instead of asking, what do I do, ask a question of a much higher order. Do I know what I want? And where the answer is, yeah, I've got a real good idea. The goal or solution, the result or desired outcome I want, well, then listen to last week's program, the second in this 3-part mini-series, to get some tips on how to use the law of attraction to act as if you've already got it and to accelerate your growth toward that desired outcome, or your ability to magnetize those circumstances, depending how you look at it. But much more often, what we're suffering from is, I don't know what to do because I don't know what I want, and I'm not sure I would recognize the right answer to choose if it were right in front of me. I mean, what about this dilemma? And I've had a lot of school. I got a college degree. Nobody ever talked to me about this at the university, much less in high school or middle school and grade school. Why aren't we teaching these kinds of basic critical thinking skills to little children? You say, well, here's 2 kinds of problems. You could either know what you want, and the problem is getting there, getting it, making it happen, or this other kind of problem where you don't know what you want at all. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to have been introduced to that at an early age? Well, we weren't, but the good news is it's never too late. So how would I know it? How would I recognize it? And that's the importance of the feeling that arrives with intuition. It's got to be a positive feeling. It is enlightening. It is, well, Steve, I think, to me, I would have to say that this kind of intuitive realization, oh, that's what I want, is a relief. It feels to me like, oh, well, boy, that settles that. No doubt about it now. I'm real clear. That's the outcome that I really want.
And so why ask the question, what do I want? Well, most people would say, well, so I can get it. But that's not it. That's not it at all. You see, the purpose of a goal is not to achieve it. The goal is not your destination, it's your direction. The goal simply exists so that you can know which direction to take your next step, which direction to move. It's likely you'll change your mind. And if you do achieve your goal, you probably set way too low a goal. In fact, if you get close to achieving your goal, set a bigger goal. Because the purpose is not getting there. The purpose is going as far as you can in the direction you want to go. So the bottom line is, if you're thinking of a goal as being, I got to get to that place, that's where I have to end up, then you're really likely to set a pretty low goal. Because if you're setting a high goal, you don't think you could achieve that. So you'd set a bad target. You'd set a target for mediocrity.
Sometimes our next step, we'll call that the goal. The goal is to get to the next step. No, that's the strategy. That's not the goal.
Right.
And so I like, we used to talk about ready, aim, fire, aim.
That's right. Fire retro rockets. Right. We're not arrows one shot. We have to hit that target. And again, it's not about, when you aim at a literal target, a bullseye, like shooting an arrow at a bullseye, the odds are that you won't hit the bullseye unless you're like one of the best archers in the world, right? But that doesn't mean you don't aim at the bullseye. You'd still, no matter, even if you know the odds are really small that you'll actually hit the damn thing, you'd still aim at it. So that's what we're saying. You want to set a goal that's the highest you could possibly achieve, not the one you're likely to achieve, not the one that's even probable, or it might be very improbable, not impossible, of course. It has to be possible. But something that's really, really big, because the heart is not moved by small dreams. The heart wants big, wonderful dreams. And if you don't actually have to achieve it, all you have to do is use it as your magnet to draw you toward it, and you're happy on the way toward it, and it doesn't matter if you actually get there or not. You have just eliminated disappointment from your life, and you can live a Zen Buddhist life without the suffering of needing. Because, you see, it's not something that you have to have. It's something that you see as your target and you detach from and just allow yourself to move in that direction.
Yeah. And by the way, this should be obvious, but I'm going to say it again anyway. I mentioned it last week. Avoiding what you don't want is not a goal. All right? You're just fooling yourself. If your idea of goal setting is, well, I don't, my expectations are not too high. I'm just trying to make sure I don't get in trouble or get into debt or lose my marriage. Well, those, that's not very lofty. Imagine a baseball player getting up to bat and swinging at the pitches saying, well, I'm just trying not to miss the ball, right? Trying not to miss the ball? No, you're trying to meet the ball with the bat to put it into a certain part of the field. A good baseball player not only hits the ball, they know where they're going to place it, Drop it here, drop it over there, maybe even sacrifice to drive a run in. I'm sorry, avoiding what you do not want is not a goal. They need to be clear, specific, detailed. Steve went over the 4 Ps in the last program. I think you should run them down again, Steve. Good, clear, detailed goals need to have each one of these 4 elements.
And so basically, when you do know what you want, it must be something you can imagine as if you already do have it, positive. You have to be able to imagine it as if you have it right now, present tense. This isn't a future thing, and your mind's got to be convinced that this is something that it already has. You imagine it with persistence or perseverance, or you just practice, imagining it over and over again. And then by far the most important of all is you imagine it with great passion. And a passion, of course, means enthusiasm or desire or wantingness. We all do passion differently. Some do it with great exuberance. Some do it with just really powerful, convinced confidence, but it's just as much emotion, not which emotion, but as much emotion as you can. You imagine what you want as if you've already got it over and over and with great passion. But when you don't know what you want, you have to really want to know the answer to that question with great passion. You have to ask it really matters to you. This is hey, mind, give me the answer, because this is really important to me. I need a target. I need a target so I can figure out which direction to take my next step. I need a target so I can feel like I'm succeeding in my life. The idea is you choose a target so that you have this thing to aim at. You don't actually have to hit the target. There's no failure in not hitting the target. Most people don't hit the target most of the time. The failure is in not having a target to aim for. D. Hock, the founder of Bank of America and the Visa company, he said, there is no failure in not realizing all that you might dream. The failure is in not dreaming all that you might realize.
And this should be in your everyday language. I'm amazed at the number of people that I hear say unconsciously, don't forget this. And then they emphasize it like it's really important that you do not forget whatever it is they want you to remember. Wouldn't it be much smarter to say this will be easy to remember? I know you can remember to do this.
So the 4 Ps, positive, present tense, practice, and passion, work great when you do know what you want. But again, when you don't know what you want, you have to ask, and you have to listen for the answer. And remember, when you're asking for the answer to the question, what do I want? It's not because you have to get it. It's because you don't know which direction to go from here, and you need that information. George Harrison said, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. You need to know which direction to go. But if you need to be able to achieve that quote-unquote goal, then you're really much more likely to set a much smaller goal, because you don't want to set something you don't think you can achieve. But if you set a much smaller goal, then your mind's not really passionate about it, because it doesn't want a small goal, it wants a big goal. So break with the idea that the goal is about achieving it. You might not. All that matters is the goal is big enough to excite you to move toward it. And do know also you have the right to change your mind on the way. You can decide, learn more, and realize that's not exactly what I want, and shift a little bit. But the bigger the goal, the bigger the dream, as long as it's this side of impossible, the mind won't work for the impossible, but as long as it's this side of impossible, the bigger the dream, the more passion it evokes, and the more likely it is to get you moving in that direction toward what you do want. So ask yourself, what do I want the most in the areas of my relationship with my spouse or my kids or my parents? What do I want the most in terms of my financial situation? What do I want the most in terms of the way I manage my friendships and my health and all those areas of life? Break it down, take a look, and if you think you already know the answer to the question, what do I want? Ask again, because what you wanted last year or 5 years ago might not be what you actually do want now. You've changed, and maybe the answer, maybe you're just sort of taking it for granted that you still want the same things you used to want, and maybe you don't. And if you're one of those many, many people who think you know what you want, and when you're asked the question, what do you want? Oh, I know what I want. I want to be happy. I want to be successful. But you haven't defined successful, and you don't understand that happiness is never a goal. Happiness is what you experience on the way to your goals. If you think you know what you want, take a second look at that question. Maybe you know what you used to want. Maybe you think you know what you want, but I think it's something worth pondering. Maybe it's worth a second look.
And be sure it's what you want and not merely something that somebody else wants you to do for them, or something that they think really is in your best interest. And maybe they're very well-intentioned, but they're just not in a position to know, at least better than you, what it is that would fulfill you, that would allow you to feel like you had achieved a goal or attained a certain level of aspiration, or whatever the area of life that you're working at. In other words, to know what you want, you must know who you are and be willing to honor that. And a lot of folks are afraid of that. This is one of the biggest blocks in the whole field of personal development, is that if I concern myself with what I want, then I'll concern myself only with what I want, and I'll be selfish and only interested in what pleases me. And so I think I'll overcompensate, go the other way, and only concern myself with pleasing other people. Well, that's a very popular and very common neurosis called codependence, the need to please other people to earn from your performance the right to feel as if you got what you want. But it never works. Even if the person you're doing this with is a willing co-conspirator, you're not going to get the fulfillment from pleasing other people, no matter how generous and unselfish you are. Look, the truth is, the more you know about yourself, the more you like yourself, and the sweeter and the kinder, the more generous, the more loving you'll be. Knowing yourself will not make you selfish. The more you know about yourself, the more you care about others. But you've got to, you got to do it for yourself first. Steve and I, for 30 years, have talked about the air mask on the airplane. And every time you get on a commercial airplane, they have to tell you, because most people are so nice, they'll try and get other people's air masks on them and get everybody fitted before they've taken care of their own needs. And you think about it for a moment, you can see why the airplane people have to tell you to put your air mask on first, make sure it's working, and then help other people. Folks, that is not selfish, putting yourself first.
No. And so how do you know if you don't know what you want? Like, people think, do I know what I want? I don't know if I don't know what I want. There are two wonderful, signposts that say, hey, you don't know what you want. There are two experiences we have regularly that show us clearly we don't know what we want. The two experiences are called stuck and confused. Whenever we're stuck, when we don't know what to do, then we know that's a symptom of we don't know what we want. Because if you know what you want, what to do becomes obvious. Do something you need to do to move toward what you want. So if you're stuck, then you don't know what you want. Or if you're confused. If you weren't confused, that would mean you did know what you want. Confusing means you don't know what you want. So you've experienced both of those things. Everyone has: stuck, confused. That's how you know it's time now, or the next convenient moment, it's time to stop and ask myself the question, what do I want, and listen for the answer. Now, there's some cool ways of getting the answer. We were talking before the show of a couple of ideas that you used to use. The dream incubation idea is really kind of cool. Why don't you explain that one?
Well, that's simply telling yourself before you go to sleep at night, after you've, kissed your husband or your wife goodnight and pumped up the pillows and got all comfortable, and maybe you said your prayers or whatever, and you're ready to go off to sleep, the last thing you do is say to yourself, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to be wide awake and alert, and I'll remember one of my dreams tonight.
And you imagine it's already happened in your mind. Like you imagine you woke up in the morning and you did it.
And what it would feel like to remember a dream that would contain information to help you solve the problem. And that'll be easy to do, and you sort of get excited about it. Oh, boy. But you don't hold on to it. You then let go of that thought as if it drifts away. As you drift away to la-la land, you go to sleep. And by golly, more often than not, especially with a little bit of practice, do it 2 or 3 times for sure to get it rolling. You'll wake up with these little, if not a whole dream, a fragment of a dream that'll give you, if not the definitive answer, often a big clue. I find it very valuable. I've used it for years.
And, a lot of people get that automatically. They go to bed with a problem and they wake up with the answer. But here's a way of saying, this is the particular problem I want you to work on tonight. And it's a really wonderful technique. Another one I like is where you close your eyes and you go to your peaceful place, to paradise, and you imagine that from the distance somebody comes walking toward you and it's your guide, and it could be some fictional character or some real true person or some animal or some cartoon character, it could be anybody. And they come to you and they talk to you and let you know the information that you're asking for. There's all kinds of cool ways to do it. One of my favorites, I used to love doing this a long time ago. I used to go, in my mind, I'd go to my peaceful place and I'd go digging through, just walking through the woods, and I'd look under this rock and I'd look under that rock, and here I find a magic treasure chest, and I open the treasure chest, and inside the treasure chest is the answer to my question. Just set it up, play games with your mind, make your mind think it's going to be really fun to come up with the answer to this question. Because again, we have to start with this really important premise, and that is you do know the answer to the question, what do I want?
You said that before, and I'm glad you've repeated it, because at first glance, the idea of what you've just said, that you can't have a problem without the solution being enfolded within it, that's whoa. That may challenge a lot of people's belief systems. First time I encountered that was Richard Bach's book about the blue feather. What was illusions. But then I started thinking more and more about how that fit into classical philosophy, and particularly idealism and Neoplatonism and such. And then I got an ecological understanding, which is what plant grows without producing some seed that allows itself to reproduce? So wouldn't that make perfect sense, that every problem is nothing more than an opportunity for you to produce a solution it's sort of like Hegel's dialectic, the problem creates the antithesis out of which comes a synthesis, and then that becomes problematic, creates an antithesis, and out of that comes another synthesis, and that's how, the universe unfolds. Your life unfolds with goals that you set proactively and initiate, but also with solutions. So consider there's design here. The providence, the fates are at work. Doesn't mean you don't have free will. Forget that false dichotomy about either predestined or free will. It's a little of both. There are certain things we have to accomplish, and you have free will within these parameters, of course. But stuff happens. So both of those things are true. But consider what Steve is saying, and I think there's a lot of power in this. It opens you to whole new possibilities. What if it were true? We're not bringing this down off Mount Sinai. Make of it what you will. But what if it were true that every problem you have has enfolded within it a solution if you but have the eyes to see and the ears to hear? In other words, provided you're willing to calm the heart and quiet the mind, to use paradise thinking Otherwise, that answer could always be in there, in the background, caught up in the mix of all that confusion. It's there, you just don't realize it.
So, starting with the premise that you do know what you want, the answer to that question has to be inside you, nowhere else that it could be in the world, and that there are a whole lot of ways to get to that answer, but the reason you're getting the answer to the question, what do I want, is not to attain it. Otherwise, you'll set your goals too low for fear of disappointment. You don't have to attain it. It's the bullseye. It's the exact center of the bullseye. It's the perfect shot. And now you probably won't hit the perfect shot. That's okay. It's not the point. The point is to aim at the perfect shot, because that gives your mind the most information it needs to get as close as it can get. So, two premises. You do have the answer to the question, what do I want the most in any area of your life? And the answer to that question is something you probably won't attain, but that's not the point. It's not a destination, it's a direction. And the more you know about what you want the most, the easier it is to see the direction and now to answer the question, okay, what do I do? What you do is take a step in that direction.
So let's do an audio journey and demonstrate. We'll talk about several, but we'll demonstrate the state of receptivity that's necessary to become aware of the choices that you have. It's a kind of a feeling process. Create the awareness, whether you feel it in your body or you sort of hear it in your head or you see it in pictures or some combination of all of those. This realization, this aha, remember, it's always positive in its emotional affect. If it's coming from fear, it's just another thought. It's logic. And the mind can disguise itself as the emotional nature, but the way you identify that little game that the mind plays is go, aha, that's worry. You're coming out of worry. That's negative. Nice try. I appreciate the intention. Sit over here on the side. Take another breath, relax, and wait for the idea to dawn upon you or to pop into your head in a way that carries with it this sense of confirmation, this realization, this inner, deep, profound knowing that that's it, that's the goal, that's the solution, that's the outcome I want to manifest.
Now, if you're one of those wonderful few that have the problem, I don't know what I want because there is nothing you want, you've got everything you want, then this may not be what you need to do. But if you have more likely the opposite problem of, well, I want a lot of things. I want a whole lot of I watch television one night, I see 50 things I want. If you have that problem, then it comes down to being much more specific about what do I want in what area of my life. And not, again, what do I want? I want 100 things, but what do I want the most? Because if I can get what I want the most, all that other stuff will fall in. So you can't know the answer to that question in your normal state of consciousness, because when you do come up with the answer to the question, what do I want, it's going to be something you already know, most likely. It's probably not going to shock you. It's just you've been listening to 50, 60, 100 things that you want, and you didn't really prioritize. You didn't really get it down to which one of all those targets am I going to shoot at. So you know what you want. The problem is you know too much of what you want. Now we have to bring it down to the one most important question. What do I want the most? We'll get all the other stuff on the way. And it always starts out of stress, out of multitasking, out of divided attention, in a state of focused passion, the alpha brainwave state. And that always happens when you feel safe by one slow, conscious, deep breath, closing your eyes, releasing the breath and the muscle tension as you find yourself slipping into paradise.
Create and sense a feeling of deep relaxation. Feeling really, really safe. Feeling as if you've released all constraints of time. There's no hurry. There's just a very rife, pregnant now. As if the idea, the goal or solution, the realization you're looking for is about to be born And you don't know that in your head. You have no facts or figures. There's just a feeling that by relaxing and coming to paradise, that you can feel how it feels, maybe even remember the last time you did a similar exercise, and begin to set yourself up for emotional intelligence, for intuition, for the coming of the dawn, maybe gently, as if on cat's feet, or maybe as if somebody just flipped on a light switch, or maybe even thunderstruck. But choose now, as you go even deeper and more relaxed, feeling even safer, allow to bubble up into your awareness one particular area of your life where it's time now to make a decision, to set a goal, to create a direction for you to begin to move toward. And so you're going to let that go and wait for the effervescence to bubble up from deep inside and form a picture in your mind, or a sound that you hear, or a feeling in the body of what you want in this particular area of your life.
So how does it feel to be getting so much better at knowing what you want? How does it feel to have that confidence inside you that you'll find the right answer to that question growing day by day? How does it feel to have a sense, an anticipation of having the answer to that so wonderful and important question? How does it feel to know that very soon you'll know where to go? What do you want? What do you need? This direction you're heading, where does it lead? What are the signposts you'll find on the way? Where are you heading tomorrow, today? Do you know what you want deep down in your heart? Have you find that you put your horse before your cart? If you're heading fast somewhere, but it isn't real clear, then you might be listening to the voice full of fear. Instead, take another breath. Let it release. Find yourself once again in that place of peace, and know that the answer to the question will be something you move toward, not something you avoid. The answer to the question will come with a voice that feels full of love and cheer. It'll be a voice that feels confident, a voice that is real clear. So if you have worry, doubt, anxiety, or fear, just be absolutely clear that's not the voice you want to hear. When you ask yourself, what do I want? What do I want the most? What would make me happiest? What would make me boast about the life that I'm living that's so great and so true? What would make me feel like I'm doing what I really want to do? Ask yourself. Ask yourself and listen and hear. The answer will come through to your mind crystal clear because it's in there. And remember, what you're looking for is not what you know you can get or what you've already got. What you're looking for is the most you could possibly achieve. You've got to stretch yourself. You've got to really believe in what's possible for you to do, because it doesn't matter if you make that come true. What matters is you take the road and move. What matters is you get out of the rut you're in and get into a groove. So understand, when you ask yourself, what do I want the most? What would make me feel most fulfilled? Listen, and you'll know. And then take a step in that direction and understand what's true. It doesn't matter if you get there. What matters is that's what you're heading to.
Your mind may interrupt the process in any one of a number of ways. Just be aware of that. Remind yourself that the mind had a chance, couldn't come up with it. And so, if the mind argues or interrupts or challenges the authority of your emotional intelligence, don't be upset. Just comfort the mind. because it always has a role to play. Have it sit on the side. Say thank you for your good intention, but right now, we're just opening ourselves to the possibilities and waiting for a coalescing of awareness, waiting for an idea to dawn upon us, to pop into our awareness. And then the mind may interrupt again as the idea begins to dawn and say, yeah, but how are we going to do this? And how would we ever get there? And what about this? And what about that? And you just breathe into it. And again, don't admonish the mind. Just have it take a seat on the side and say, how we do it, we'll think about later. Right now, let's just focus on what it is. As Stephen Michael have said, the goal, the solution, the desired outcome or result is really primarily a direction that we begin to move in. Ready, aim, fire, but then aim again as you get closer. Aim again, take another step. Aim again. This is a good time to use the mind as you move toward it, but in paradise thinking, when you come to these levels of deep relaxation, consider any thought about how to get there a distraction. And in these levels of mind, don't plan, don't strategize, just experience the feeling of the goal or solution dawning upon you, and then how would it feel to already have it? As if you lead with your heart and follow later with the thoughts. How would it feel to know what I really want, and then to know that I know, and to have that wonderful positive feeling? I remember having it in the past when I knew that I knew, and sit open and receptive and patiently wait for that crystallization, for that idea to formulate in your mind's eye and in your heart.
So as you explore your life, the areas that you feel safe and the areas that you feel strife, as you explore your relationships, your career, your prosperity too, as you explore your children and your health and all the things that you do, now's the time to reevaluate the answer to the question you pose. What do I want the most? In all these different areas, in each of them, ask again, what do I want the most? And then allow the answer to emerge from within. Reevaluate, take another look. It's time to check in again. What do you want the most? Listen in. And so each time you choose to close your eyes and take a deep breath and go to your safe place in the next day or two, check in a different area of your life, maybe one, maybe two. What do I want the most? And understand what you're looking for is the most you could possibly achieve. Stretch yourself. What's possible that you could believe? It's not about getting it. It's not about that being the place that you end. It's about having a roadmap to follow on which you can depend is going to take you in the right direction. This is about creating the direction, not destination, that you need. Knowing exactly what you want the most, now you can follow your own lead. So, as it feels comfortable for you, reorient yourself to the room, to where you are, to how you feel, to what you would like to make real. And know that this is a question you can keep asking again and again. What do I want the most in this area or that? What do I want the most? It's important to know. So, a deep breath, and with that, let yourself go back to the state of wide awake.
Now, every time you think about this, I want you to think less of making it happen than preparing to receive a foregone deal. like you ordered it on the phone and it's coming UPS and it should be here any day and you could probably track it on the internet. You do have to take action steps, right? You have to go out and do things. To prepare to receive, though, not to make it happen. You've just planted the seed. A teacher of mine used to say you don't have to pull up your carrots to see how they're doing. The carrots know better than you how they're doing. And those thought seeds that you just planted know how to manifest themselves. But you have to take some action steps, right? So just think of them in terms of I'm preparing to receive this done deal rather than now I've got to make the dream come true. There's more letting go than holding on here.
So understand the question really never is, I don't know what I want. What do I want? The question is, I know what I want, but I'm just not in touch with it. It's in there. The answer to what you want is in there. It's the only place it could be. Whether you buy into the fact that in every problem the solution is unfolded, you have to at least believe that the solution to the question, what do I want, is inside of me, because nobody else could possibly know me and the combination of talents, gifts, abilities. What I want the most is going to be a way to express who I uniquely am in the most wonderful way.
Besides, you're hard to buy for.
Indeed.
Even books, it's likely you've already read it.
Well, you know, a gift certificate to a bookstore is always heaven for me. I get to pick my own out.
One thing I want is for you as a contributor to FocusedPassion.com to forward these programs to the people that you care about, to the people that you think of when you listen to these programs. And the gadget's all built in on the member page of our website. Just log in to FocusedPassion.com, use the button that says Share One with a Friend, and everybody benefits, everybody wins. Do that as often as you want, every time you think of it, as many times as you wish, for no additional fee whatsoever. We think that's a way that you help to change the world.
And if you're Twittering or Facebooking or LinkedIn, hook up with us on there too. We're having a good time on the new social media scene.
As always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. From Maui, aloha.